What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sector for Nerds. I'm Ryan Brower, and today we're here to have a chat about the Star Wars novel called Jedi Battle Scars. We're going to be talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. But first up, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, head over to my other YouTube channel called Top 10 Character Moments and subscribe there as well. Subscribing to my channels is free and it really helps support me as a content creator. Thank you guys. By the time this video goes up, we will be right in the thick of Jedi Survivor, which I'm very excited for. So hopefully you guys will be checking out that content when it's released. But for now, we're here to take a break from all that and have a chat about the book, which it takes place between the first and second games. And to be honest, I was hoping the story would have had some more high stakes, like especially going into the second game. But to be honest, I felt like it was very inconsequential. Like the only thing it really kind of teased, which might play into the second game, maybe not, is that the group was doing a lot of arguing throughout the story and teasing like going their separate ways. And I don't know, like just judging by the trailer, it felt like they were all apart for some time. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm sure by the time we're playing the video game, we'll all know, and I'll have probably talked about it in some of the videos. But at the same time, you guys, it just felt like this story, it's like, okay, you could probably miss the story or just get like a summary of it, and you're really not missing much. The book starts out with our heroes going up against the Haxian Brood, which is a faction that we see in the first game that ends up capturing Cal Kestis, like some of the bounty hunters that work for them. And I think we're going to be getting them in the second game as well, which is pretty cool. I think it had talked about how they were in league with the Empire and doing business with them. The book felt like it was more about Marin than it was about Cal. Cal had some moments to shine, like especially when he fights the fifth brother, and we'll talk about that, but it felt like it was much more about Marin and her new girlfriend, Freight. There were a lot of romantic scenes between them, not like rated R type content, but like there was definitely some stuff that was implied, and there was a lot of like, you know, flirtatious talk between the two of them. As someone who shipped Cal and Marin since the first game, I really wasn't a fan of this. And like, it's not to say that we still can't get to that point, and we probably will get to that point too, because the person that ends up being with her, there's this whole complicated story in there, as there usually is with these romance type stuff. And there's another person involved in the picture that Freight thought was dead, but then she's still alive. But then like, oh, they find out that, you know, they still have an admiration for each other, but they don't have the same feelings anymore. And that's why they were so cool at the end of the book when they offer for Marin to go with them. Because at first Marin was taken back by it, right? And she's like, oh, your significant other is okay with this? And Freight kind of points out like, it's not really my significant other anymore. Like we still have a respect and admiration for each other, but the feelings that we used to have are no longer there. And that's why she wants Marin to go with her. Huge shocker, she doesn't. It's just so weird to me, like the idea that Marin was willing to trust someone, especially who we find out too was kind of with the Imperials at first, right? So, and of course, like there's a whole complicated story there where, oh, she's not with them, but oh, I was actually lying, I was with them, but I realized what they were doing was wrong. Especially for someone like Marin who like put her trust in someone like Terran Malicos, and then like he ends up stabbing her in the back, and he leads the Night Brothers, all this stuff as we see in Jedi Fallen Order. And it's like the fact that Marin would be willing to trust so easily. And she also gave her the benefit of the doubt too. Cal knew something was up. He kept talking about in the book how he knew something was going on with her, but like he didn't have the heart to say it because he knew like how close the two of them were getting. And then towards the end of the book, we kind of get some teases of Cal and Marin's relationship as well. The two of them really caring about each other. Cal always wanting to make sure that like he's the first one in, last one out, to make sure that like none of his team gets harmed. For Marin, just like she doesn't want to have to leave him to do everything by himself, because she also is part of this team and wants to be able to help out. It's like, yeah, you don't want anything to happen to me, but I also don't want anything to happen to you. It goes both ways. So hopefully by Jedi Survivor, we get something juicy with those two. I would probably say that the part of the story that has the biggest significance is probably Cal and the fifth brother, that whole part of the story. There are two separate occasions where we see Cal Kestis fight the fifth brother. Now, something that the author mentions in this book that I just kind of don't know if I necessarily agreed with her take on things. Cal doesn't feel ready to fight an Inquisitor again and needs an advantage against an Inquisitor. And I sit there thinking like, Cal needs an advantage against the Inquisitors, even though he definitively beat one of them in the Ninth Sister on Kashyyyk. And it was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like anything like, oh, you know, he got lucky. Like, no, he actually beat her. He bested her in combat. He also beat the second sister in Trilla, who the author wrote in this book that Cal used Trilla's emotional baggage, her words, not mine, against her. And while I understand it maybe to a degree, I don't think that's necessarily what happened in that fight. The way that I read it from the video game, the way that I sort of understood it, was that the first time that those two fought each other, right, like on Braca, Trilla was clearly better because she's been training all this time. She's Inquisitors, right? She's training with the other ones. She's training with Vader. But Cal has been without his powers for several years, right? Like, he's been trying to hide the fact that he's a Jedi. He's trying to lock that side of himself away. So it's like he's just starting to bring that back out again, but he's not used to it. Hence why he gets his butt kicked, right? And he has to run. Then comes the second time that they fight each other, and Cal's getting a little bit better. He's not there yet, but he's getting there. Then the third time that they fight each other on that one planet with the temple, I'm forgetting the name of it already off the top of my head, but the biggest factor there, I think Cal was definitely ready to face her, but what he wasn't ready for was to grab Trilla's saber and sense the history that came with it, and it sent him into a shock. Because he's got that Quinlan Voss type power, right? So once they meet each other on Fortress Inquisitorius, Cal is 100% ready to face her and is more than a match for her, which is why I think he won. So it's like, to say that like, oh, he used Trilla's emotional baggage to beat her, I don't think that's fair. But again, everyone's got their own opinions. But Cal and Cere go up against the fifth brother, and they do some tag team action against the fifth brother, and it gets to a point where they have, Cere has the fifth brother beaten, right? But instead of trying to kill him, Cere tries to convert him to the light side. Because for Cere, and like sort of her arc throughout this journey was, I couldn't do more to save my Padawan, so I want to save all of these other people. Not realizing that for a lot of these Inquisitors, there's no coming back. And it's a rough lesson indeed, but not one that Cere has to face, but one that good old Greasy Money has to pay the consequences for. Because poor old Grease has to take the bullet for Cere and results in him losing an arm. Remember how in the trailer we see our good old friend Grease with an arm that's like, hey, that looks robotic. Well, you can thank the fifth brother for that. That to me, I feel like was the most significant part of this story. So like really the biggest thing that you need to know going into the second game. Do I think we're going to fight the fifth brother in the second game at all? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But it does feel like, judging by the trailer, like there's a new villain out there that has nothing to do with the Inquisitors. And I've seen a lot of speculation, people thinking like, oh, it's someone that was from the High Republic era. So I guess we'll have to see. By the end of the book, like there was, I think, like an explosion or something that like separates the fifth brother from where all the other heroes are at. And so then all our heroes are able to get away and they go off, and that's when they separate from the other people that they met. And like I said, I just feel like it was like a 280 something page book, I believe. I don't normally read, so it's like, I guess it wasn't too bad because I've seen books that are like, 300, even 400 pages, and it's like, oh my goodness. Whenever I do read, it's usually something Star Wars related. So yeah, I would say the biggest takeaways from this book: Grease loses his arms thanks to the fifth brother. Merrin had a relationship for a brief moment with someone that wasn't Cal, then teases relationship moments with Cal, and the crew is kind of divided about what their mission is. is. For Cal, that mission is, we need to fight against the Empire. For Marin, it's, I need to avenge my sisters. For Grease, it's just, can we all just retire and go to the casino and make greasy money? You know what I'm saying? I also love that term, greasy money, by the way. I forget which part of the game he says it, but he says like, oh, don't worry guys, it's gonna be easy, it's gonna be greasy money instead of easy money. It's gonna be greasy money. I love it. So yeah, you guys, you'll have to let me know in the comments below if you guys have read this book, and if so, what your thoughts are on it. I think overall, it was an okay book. I wouldn't, like I said, I don't think it's something that you need to go out of your way to read. But with that, you guys, that is gonna wrap us up for today. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. Remember, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And share this video with others to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.